Making Tax Digital is coming, but what are the digital exclusions that you may be able to apply for? Let's take a look today. Hi, I'm Kimberly Shapcotts, qualified chartered accountant, property investor and entrepreneur. Let's sit down and have a chat. Making Tax Digital exclusions refers to circumstances where a taxpayer can honestly not actually comply with the regulations as they have been stipulated. This may be beliefs that mean digital tools are not available to them, or it may be that there's incapacities that means it's not really practical and they just cannot fulfil the regulations, the rules that are being applied going forward. In this sort of situation, HMRC may allow an exemption and remove you from these requirements. However, it's not just an automatic thing, and there are requirements to enable you to apply and get this sort of exemption from them. There are certain criteria for digital exclusion, as you'll now see, and HMRC is considering a person digitally excluded if it's just not reasonably practical for them to actually get set up with MTD software, to be keeping digital records or submitting things quarterly. And the reasons that they're allowing at this moment in time, as you can see, are age, health or disability. So it might prevent them from using computers, tablets, smartphones, all these sorts of things that are modern tools that, touch wood, most of us will be actually able to use. It may be a location-based barrier. So there are some places in the country that have real difficulties getting internet signal, Wi-Fi, that sort of thing, especially out in the sticks and the countryside. There are still some areas that don't have fully accessible internet. So if that is the case, then it may be, if you can't find a suitable alternative location, or it's not practical for you, or the costs outweigh the benefits of doing it, then you may be able to get an exclusion based on that. And also there is religious beliefs that are incompatible with the use of electronic communications, but it must be consistent in both business and personal life. So if you're going down the religious route, you really do need to be of a area, probably not actually watching this video because you may not be on a digital front, but it is that sort of thing that you need to be looking at. Reasons that do not qualify, we probably need to cover, because these reasons, maybe you think that you can, but you can't, you won't get the exemption because of them, and they've specifically given us that guidance. So that guidance is showing as prefers to file a paper return, unfamiliar with accountancy software, has a small number of digital records to create each year, or considers the extra time or cost of using Making Tax Digital an issue. So as you can see here, cost is not a factor. Not being able to use the software is not a factor. They'd kind of say you need to get yourself trained on it, or you need to get professional advice to support you, or just having one property which is generating you a lot of money but there's not really any transactions. Again, it's irrelevant. You still need to be doing something and they want you to be fulfilling the requirements. Now, if you do believe that you can get some sort of exemption, and I am aware of a number of people who have been getting it, I think on the age related, they are probably approaching 80, they are not very IT literate, they very much rely on others to do the IT side of things, so to be doing that is a bit of a boundary, it is a bit of an issue. So I know there are exemptions being applied for and being granted, however, just take care in doing this to make sure that you don't get the exemption, you've not done the preparation. So how do you apply for an exemption? As you can see on screen, if you believe you're digitally excluded, you must apply to HMRC for an exemption. You can't apply anywhere else. You need to get it in writing. You cannot just assume that you can have it. You can apply yourself, or an authorised agent, friend or family member can apply on your behalf. So this is especially for those maybe older people who may still have rental properties, but they aren't doing things themselves. They need support on it, so a friend may be able to support them. And you need to contact them by phone and contact the self-assessment general inquiries line, which you'll be able to find the number online. I will have put a comment. I've put the link to this page in the comments below, so you can actually see where you need to go, as that number does every so often change to make sure you're phoning the right number. Or in writing, and send a letter with the title Making Tax Digital for Income Tax Digitally Excluded application to the address provided by HMRC. So the application needs to include your national insurance number, your name and address, how you currently submit your tax return, your detailed reason for why you cannot comply with Makingtaxdigital, and any supporting notes, which may include things like doctors or commentary from friends or evidence that you can't get internet in your area, all these sorts of things. The more you get support, the more you have evidence that you're submitting it digitally, that you're doing different things, may mean you don't get the digital exclusion. If you're doing it by paper, you're doing it once a year, you're doing it yourself, then potentially the digital exclusion, you may be more likely to get an exemption certificate. But if you are looking at doing that, you need to do it soon. You need to do it straight away so that you are getting it done before the digital submission is needed, is required, so you are not late with any submissions. If you do get an exemption, then what does it mean? Well, this means that you won't have to get Makingtaxdigital software and you will not need to submit the quarterly submissions. You'll still need to keep your accurate records and you'll still need to submit your tax return through the current self-assessment system. So it doesn't mean you don't have to report your taxes. It doesn't mean you don't have to do the normal things that you would normally doing. It just means that you don't have the extra things that anyone doing Makingtaxdigital will need to be doing. In addition, you must inform HMRC if your circumstances change and your digitally excluded points change. So if you're living in the middle of nowhere, or if you're living on an island that doesn't get internet connection, then that's fine, you've got your digital exclusion. If you move into the city and all of a sudden you can get internet, there's no issues, so your exclusion doesn't apply because you're no longer located in a place that has no access to internet, you need to inform them and then you would need to comply with the Makingtaxdigital requirements. So just because you have an exemption now doesn't mean it's forever exempted unless your circumstances stay the same. As you can see, the digital exclusion and the exemptions may be useful for certain individuals. If you have an older family member who still has property and they're still doing their own tax return and they're going to struggle to do the Makingtaxdigital, then potentially they may be someone who can apply for an exemption. If you're living in the middle of nowhere and there is no internet and there is no capacity, and to be doing things with an accountant or someone is not within their budget potentially, then it may be they can still get an exclusion because they may already be doing paper returns and it may be something that can be considered. So this is not a don't apply for exemption, it is more a be cautious if you are applying one. Is there a way that you can be complying with the rules? If you can comply with the rules, I would be recommending you do so, just to make sure that you are fulfilling the requirements. And don't make any assumptions that exemption will be granted. If you want to do it, make sure you get it sorted sooner rather than later, so you know what you do need to do or if you don't need to do anything. Hopefully today you've discovered what digital exclusions may be and whether it may be something you can look into. If you have any questions, then please do leave a comment. Please like the video and do subscribe to the channel, and let's make tax less taxing. Let's make tax less taxing.